Hi, I'm Roy Collin, and I'm the creator of the podcast. You can find everything about me and the 5 podcasts on bio.link/podcaster, and you'll find it in the QR code there. I'd also like to thank my sponsors. If you or someone you know is struggling with anxiety and want to know how to be 100% anxiety free in 6 weeks without therapy or drugs, Daniel Packard Anxiety Solution Program Company offers a 6 weeks system that permanently solves anxiety at an astounding 90% success rate. People who join the program only pay at the end once they have clear, measurable results. If you're interested in learning more, go to permanentanxietysolutions.com, where you can book a free consultation with Daniel. Do you have high blood pressure or want to get off the meds? Doctors are amazed at what Zona Plus can do. Get a $50 discount with my code ROY. Go to zona.com/discount/ROY, and you see the QR code for all my sponsors down at the end. Quality Polish manufacturer of metal products for telecommunication and workshop equipment and other metals. If you'd like a brochure, you see it in the QR code, and you just let us know if you would like a quotation shipped internationally and very competitive rates. I hope you enjoy this week's podcast.
Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're also on BitChute and YouTube. You find the links in the podcast description. I'm a podcasting coach. I've got 4 other podcasts, and you'll find everything on bio.link/podcaster. My guest today is an author and an activist. Please welcome Sandy Stream.
Nice to be here, Roy. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm looking forward to this because I've got your book here and I've read it and it's actually excellent. But you might let the listeners know a little bit more. Who's Sandy?
I'm just a regular human being, I guess, like everybody else, with my struggles, my ups and downs. Technically, I'm a lawyer by profession, but that's not how I identify myself at all. Just a human being. And in the past few years, I felt like I had so many difficulties internally that I really started to delve into, how can I feel better myself inside? How do I feel better? And I just read a lot, meditated a lot, watched a million talks, everything. And in the end, I was taking a lot of notes. I call them my sanity notes. So I was taking notes, papers everywhere, and just trying to make sense of things. And in the end, I kind of feel well. And I did turn it into a book called The Courage Circle. And it's my pieces of my puzzle of how I came to pretty much function and feel well no matter what's going on around me. And so now I guess I'm at the point of wanting to share that and hoping that some of my pieces of my puzzle are some of the pieces of other people's puzzles, so that people can walk around in this world, feeling better. And then when they do behaviors that are just healthier. And who knows how that's contagious, right?
Excellent. So I suppose before we delve into the book, because I'm looking forward to this, because there's a lot of things that I've picked out on, but your own kind of speaking journey, because obviously when you're, a lawyer, you have to, be competent speaking and you're there. But prior to that, what was your own kind of speaking journey?
So I would say when I was younger, I was not on a speaking journey. I was probably more quiet and not expressing myself or expressing what I think so much. And, more, making sure everybody else is happy and everybody else is happy with me of what I do. So I would say I was not a speaking journey. And then I guess in my 30s, I started teaching some conferences, legal conferences. So I got a bit more comfortable with speaking there, but it was certainly terrifying at the beginning. And then I did that for the past 15, 20 years. And now with this book that's really inspired me to speak out, it actually takes me a ton of courage to do this, even though I've been speaking for so many years, legal aspects, but to do, podcasts and to speak on these issues is very new for me. Social media is very new for me. But I guess I'm motivated enough to do it. And so I'm kind of just handling the nervousness or the fear of doing it and doing it anyway, as people say. And so that's why I'm here, because I feel like it's something I should do.
Brilliant. And with kind of the legal side, because I'm not sure what kind of area that you were kind of representing, but I know just from a circle that I know, a lot of solicitors, it can be a fairly depressing job. because of the different cases and everything. I'm not sure is that similar in the States, but I know that from a lot of people that I've come across.
Yeah, well, I'm in Canada actually, and I wasn't doing that kind of practice. So I worked a little bit in companies, but then I started just teaching non-lawyers basically about contracts. So I didn't really deal much with lawyers at all. And it was so with purchasing professionals, and I was teaching, seminars, kind of how to deal with contracts when you're not a lawyer. So educational. So I don't think I've had their experiences.
Okay. So, like, I know the book you're kind of doing workshops, so you might kind of talk about your workshops, kind of what exactly they entail and how you kind of structure them, and then we'll delve a bit into the book.
Sure, I'd love to. I don't exactly consider them workshops because I'm not teaching and I'm not lecturing anybody in this group. I call them more a circle. And so we meet, about twice a week. There's 2 different groups in yoga studios. And I didn't realize, but what I do at the beginning is very, sets really the tone for the room. And at the beginning, we all introduce ourselves kind of with our title. So I start with my, legal title. Everybody else says I'm a programmer, I'm an architect, I'm this and that. And then we actually drop all these titles. I ask everyone to forget about their titles, forget about their kids, forget about their cats and dogs, and just, try to deal with each other as human beings in the room, from a deeper place, from our essence or from our inner being. And once we do that, and then we do a little bit of practice of what I consider to be healthy listening, because there's different types of listening, and most I don't know if they should even be categorized as the word listening. So once we do a bit of that, then we just discuss a new topic every week. But with that base of, dropping this comparing of, titles and experiences and all that, and just being there. And with the practice of listening, people are just very, very open right away, actually. And so, they share about their own, struggles, experiences, whatever else is going on. And the wisdom and the honesty in the room is just so wonderful, the encouragement. So it feels to me like a bit of a dream world. And it's not that there isn't pain or sadness in it, but it's just honest. So, and there's no, judging and demeaning and things that the world thinks is normal. It's not normal, in my opinion. But this sense of openness and honesty and encouraging is just, it's a wonderful place to just be, So I love doing it myself. And I think that people enjoy having a space where they can just come and be themselves, basically.
Excellent. And I mean, I think that's something that every little town and city needs. Is it something that you can kind of facilitate training people that can do the exact same around the world?
Well, for me, what I think it starts with is actually you. So the Courage Circle, even though the book's called Courage Circle, I didn't, know I would do eventual physical circles with other people, because for me, it's a circle around yourself. So you have to, find your own courage, your own peace inside, learn how to set boundaries and all the other things that I talk about in the book. And then when you, live that way yourself, that does tend to impact your world around you. It's not like you're trying to control everybody around you, but the way you are just does naturally impact your world around you. So it's my belief that each person that just kind of takes care of themselves in this way and learns to kind of operate under this good operating system will be contagious or impact others around them kind of naturally. So I don't think I could do 1,000 circles around the world. It's just me, but each person that kind of delves into themselves and arrives at a place where they, can feel well, I think will just impact the people around them just naturally. So how I would go about doing this more, I don't really know. Right now, I'm just doing this week and we'll see how it goes. I'm doing these podcasts. I hope they're also helpful at just redefining what is normal in our world so that people do not just tolerate behaviors that are not healthy, basically.
Excellent. And like just prior to recording, we were talking about, that there's very few people read now. And like because I read about 100 books a year. I love reading. And what I loved about this, and I think why I would encourage people to read it is a lot of times you can get a book and it's like a chapter is, 50 pages. And I think people think about that and everything, but you've got small little snippets, but they're actually, what I found is when I'm reading it, and it doesn't happen with every book, is you go into deep thought. And I love that because basically you're kind of sharing your story or you're mentioning something about it. And then you go, well, you don't, I do it. I go into my own little bubble inside. And I like that because it's like,
Oh, it's wonderful.
yeah, it's like thought provoking. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that, that I've kind of gone through on this. So, if I just kind of touch on kind of the key words and perhaps
Sure, whatever you like.
there was one, avoiding feelings.
Yeah. So that's, for me, that's one of the first steps. It's not like the whole step, but one of the biggest mistakes, not mistakes, things that's been happening for the past 5,000 years, I guess, is this demonization of emotions. So we think emotions are like bad or wrong or weird, or I shouldn't have them or something. And in fact, I think it's the opposite. So our emotions are very natural and healthy, and they guide us. So they are our internal guidance system. So, if you feel sad, that's not a bad thing. It's natural and healthy, and it's telling you that you need something or that you need to move in a different direction. So, maybe you're lonely and you need to try to make a friend, or maybe you need to get out there. Or so that would be sad, or maybe you just need time to grieve a loss. So it's not something bad, or I shouldn't feel this, or I shouldn't feel that. And the other one is that common people push down is anger. So anger is also a very healthy emotion. It allows us to know, where we should set a boundary or where we need to act in our life. I feel disrespected, so maybe I need to do this or that. Of course, anger doesn't mean you get to behave aggressively or lash out at people, but we're talking about just feeling anger is healthy and normal. Just having the feeling itself, and then sitting with yourself and trying to understand why you feel it and what's going on with you, that's perfectly healthy. So when we stop demonizing our emotions and start listening to them instead and see what's going on, we actually start to feel our body, and we get out of just being in the thoughts, the thinking head, which I call the calculator, I guess, where we're just kind of analyzing. We're actually feeling what's going on. And then eventually with time, these emotions will process and we will feel them and they will pass through us. And then we start to just live more in the body, which means we feel things. So we feel the air, we feel the energy, we feel trees, we feel life. We just feel, we sense life more, instead of living in the head, which is just basically a calculator, and not really our essence, which is, I would say, a bit more, you can look to your heart or your guts or something that's more in the body, to live in yourself, in your deeper self. So,
and like say the anger is like, because a lot of people, there's two types, because some people, they just go screaming and they go, and others suppress it and they push it down. And I think just to become conscious of the feeling, and sometimes without screaming, but let people know, look, you have created something that isn't normal. And I think it becomes more empowering when you can do that, instead of kind of going, somebody's in the wrong and they're doing something bad, but you just don't want to disrupt the thing, that you're pushing it down. And I think a lot of people do that, and then it just is like a bomb that just eventually people snap. So by being in control of your emotions, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, so suppressing your emotions is just gonna, I think, lead to, physical unwellness, because you're not actually processing them and you're not allowing the energy to move in the body. So that doesn't help you. And then, like I said, screaming at someone, that's not feeling your emotion. That's lashing out at somebody. That's something else. Feeling your emotion means, oh, I feel like myself getting really revved up inside, and now I'm going to allow myself to feel it and understand why I feel it. I don't get to do anything to anyone just because I feel angry, but it's important to actually feel it completely and understand why. And then, if you want to do some actions by yourself that can help you discharge this feeling, whether it's running or burning some letters or doing something else, that's fine, but it doesn't give you the right to do something to other people just because you're angry. It does give you information now. You know what? For example, I feel disrespected talking to Roy. The way he speaks to me, I feel so disrespected. I'm starting to feel angry. Then I get to make a choice. Maybe I won't talk to Roy anymore, right? Because I listened to my anger. Maybe I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not talking to you because I'm feeling disrespected. So that's where you have power actually to make choices based on listening to your feelings. So it's a very important first step in terms of finding your power of what you can do in your life and not blaming the other person. Oh, Roy should stop being rude. Roy should stop whatever. No, I should remove myself from the situation, and do what I need to do to make sure that I'm okay. So when you operate your life all the time looking at, what am I to do as opposed to Roy is bad or someone's doing something bad, it really, it's a very healthy way of operating, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I like what I've seen in life as well is sometimes people, because they've got friends from an early age or their circle, they believe that, but they're my friends. And I believe that, look, you have bridges, you have to break some bridges, but new ones will form. And it's like when you feel that you're not being respected, there's no point in having a screaming match and then it calms down and then it's grand again a couple of days later when you know that this is just wrong. And I have done that. And I've been guilty of it before, just kind of thinking, it'll be grand. And as soon as you kind of cut somebody out of your life, both male and female, you never regret it. Well, I haven't. I've never went back and go, I shouldn't have done that or whatever. It's always been the right decision. And it's like new
so
people.
if that's what felt right for you, that's then you're doing what's healthy for you, and that's the way to go. But it could be different. I've had to do many different things in my life, and it's very difficult. It's not like it's easy, right? You're going to have horrible feelings of being alone and lost and all those things. But if you're taking care of yourself, meaning I'm responsible for myself and for my well-being, and this is constantly something that's hurting me or causing me stress, then for sure you could try to talk to the person, you could try this, you could try that, but eventually, ultimately, you're responsible for your own well-being. And if it's disrupting this well-being, then you have to do what you have to do for yourself, right? So I guess that's the choices you made, and that's a bit of an unknown, but I guess that's the way to go.
Yeah. And I mean, based on kind of the other side of that then, because there's another part you've read, seeing yourself as a victim.
Yeah.
So that's kind of goes into it, because sometimes it's people that you cut the ties with, but that's how they see themselves, as the victim.
With seeing yourself, I mean, it's a complex topics, but my experience, first of all, is that people have a hard time, actually the opposite problem, that they have a hard time actually seeing that they were hurt. Like kind of, people are told like, don't be a victim, don't be a victim. So they're actually having a hard time feeling for themselves. So I'd say the opposite problem is the bigger one, to actually feel your pain, right? Feel like, oh my God, this was like so hard for me. And this was horrible experience and it was tough. So first of all, I would start with the opposite, meaning, yes, feel your pain and hurt completely. That's part of experiencing, like I'm saying, the reality and the truth of what's happening in your body, and the pain will eventually pass, but we need to feel it, right? But then, once we felt it, we can definitely try to pull ourselves out of situations. One thing that really helps could be to, and it's not about blaming or who's at fault, but just trying to see what part you played in something. Like, even if it's 2% part, like, how did I participate in this situation? Did I stay there longer? Did I, just to find your part without blaming yourself, without being hard on yourself, just to see, because that actually empowers you to see, okay, well, I'm not going to do that next time, or something else. Even if it's 1%, it can really help. And even if you don't find that 1%, you can try to see, like, okay, what am I going to do now about this? What can I do now? What can I say? What can I speak in? Pretty much I find, we can always find something that we can do or that we play a part of. And I would even go to extremes in saying how much we can really realize that we play a part in everything that's going on in our world. So, a lot of people are very unhappy about the war that's going on, between Russia and Ukraine, obviously. And so can we spend a moment and think, how are we playing a part in creating, instead of blaming, oh, this should happen, that, how are we playing a part in that? Are we ourselves being very nationalistic? So then we're perpetuating big nationalism, right? Are we, not being accepting of different, I don't know. I mean, each person can look themselves, but I certainly always look to what am I doing? It doesn't mean I'm going to solve everything, but it means I'm not going to always be blaming the world or thinking everybody else has to do something in this world or trying to control them. I'm just going to really take ownership of my life and do what I have to do that feels right for me. And that's kind of the way I operate. I'm not looking to the outside to decide what I have to do or to approve of me or to tell me, this or that. And that's where we can walk around life feeling very relaxed, actually, because we're more internally driven, we're validated internally, we're motivated internally, as opposed to what we've usually been trained is to look at the outside, to approve of you, to tell you you're okay, you're not okay, you're doing this right, you're not doing this right, right? So instead of looking outside, we start to look inside and get our answers and get our drive and get everything else, a lot of it from there.
Excellent. And I suppose, because I know you talk about grounding as well, which is something I do all the time. I love going barefoot out in the garden and everything.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah, I think it just it definitely
Mhm.
connects you with the
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah, grounding is super important. Again, it's a lot of it is about being in the body instead of being in the head, right? Whether we're in our power, in our heart, in our guts, all these things, instead of just kind of, it's almost like you're escaping into thinking as opposed to, feeling yourself in the world. And I do believe being barefoot on the ground is super important. Not only, there's all kinds of electromagnetic stuff that happens and who knows what, in our connection with the earth and energy and all that stuff, but at a very basic level for me, especially when someone is feeling very anxious or worried or whatever, so they're very much in their thoughts, right? And they're not in the body. And so if you're not in the body, it's almost like you're a bit like you're floating, like you're not safe, right? So when you feel the ground, you feel safe because you're not like gonna fall or float. So it might seem like a weird analogy, but I think it's actually true. Like when we feel, you sit on the floor, you just feel safe, so whatever thoughts you might have can help you feel just safety, like you're not gonna fall down or float away or be blown away with the wind, right? So I really recommend walking barefoot or just sitting on the grass when you're struggling, and even when you're not struggling, to enjoy and get the energy from the earth and whatever else who knows how it gives it to us, but there's definitely some connection happening there with our bodies, right? It's like a grounding electrical stuff in the house, right? It needs to get grounded. And I do think there's something in us that's the same. That's what I feel, at least in my body.
No, definitely. And what I noticed is, even if I'm walking around, I know when I'm in flow, when everything is right, and I can feel it when there's something off. And then I try to kind of see, okay, what's going on, and get it back in line. But I know straight away there's something off. I just don't feel right now.
Right. And so when you feel not right, you look inside instead of looking at the head, right? Like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I should. Whenever you say the word should, you're definitely not in the right zone of trying to find answers. But instead of I should do this, I should do this, you can go to what do I feel? What am I feeling right now? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling a bit scared? Am I feeling tired? Am I feeling, go a bit more to the feeling, because then it'll let you know what you need to do. It'll be your guidance is there, your inner compass, as they call it.
No, definitely. And I know you kind of do meditation as well. So I'd like to know what kind of meditation that you're doing. And you touch on the breath work as well, because breath, grounding and the breath, because most people aren't even breathing properly. And, so just curious what way you do it. And are you teaching that in your circles as well?
When I was doing, like I said, those few years of looking in everything, I just listen to anything and everything. So I'm no expert in anything, but if something sounds right, sometimes these Himalayan bowls or chanting or whatever, it's not that I follow necessarily the whole, world of that, but it really gets us in the body again because we're listening. Listening is actually in the present, right? So it's not a thought in the head. We're actually listening. So for some people, music can do it, breathing can do it, Tai Chi could do it, or yoga, or anything else that where you're feeling martial arts, obviously. But one simple exercise that I use often is to, it's part of grounding as well, is to kind of breathe in and feel like you're sucking up the ground, like the energy from the ground, like really high up, and then to bring the thoughts all the way back down and to follow that into the body. Like, when you exhale, to take all the head energy, all the electricity in the head, and put it back down into the ground. I mean, that often works well, just a long exhale. Some people also use the inhale, like 4-7-8 is a very nice one. You inhale for 4, you hold for 7, and you exhale for 8. If you just do that a few times, it definitely brings your body back, down into feeling grounded and feeling in your body and less in the head. So those could be tried, but there's so many apps. There's a wonderful app called Insight Timer that's free, that has a million things on it. So that one I would recommend if people are interested.
Excellent. And when you're doing the circles, then how long is it? An hour or 2 hours, or what's the duration, or does it vary?
It's usually about an hour and a half. Yeah, about an hour and a half. The one I did 2 days ago, our discussion was what is putting people down? So that's what we were all discussing. Everyone was discussing their points of view and how they experienced it, and all kinds of things. It was just absolutely fascinating discussion. And the next one that I have today, our topic is going to be, is something actually wrong with me? So we're going to talk about all the messages people have given. I'm sure I know some of what's going to come. People are given the constant message that something is wrong with them. And so unfortunately, they spend a good part of their life trying to fix themselves, where, at least in my opinion, there's nothing to fix. You're just fine just the way you are inside. And you might have gotten hurt, or you might have emotions to process from the past, or traumas and all kinds of things. But it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It just means you've had difficult experiences of whatever kind. So that discussion should be interesting today. And that's something very interesting to start to notice, how many times, pretty much all the time, you will experience so many people giving you that message, whether it's their tone of voice or words of, something is wrong with you, or putting you down, or doing something like that. It's just such a common way of behaving, as if it's normal. And it's just so wonderful for me to sit in a room with the people in the Courage Circle that attend, and to just not have that energy. And, it's 15, 20 people that barely know each other, all different races, cultures, and ages, and everything else. And it's possible, because I live it every single week. It's actually possible.
Yeah, and I mean, like the power of words. We just look at even talking to plants and everything, and like with the cell. And when you look at sometimes even the parent, how they talk to the child, or the spouse is talking to each other, and sometimes they think it's just words, but the reality, it's going deep within.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the tone of voice is really what matters a lot too, right? Like, not just the words, but the tone. That's always telling you you're bad, you're wrong, you're that. When you hear that all day, every day, imagine a kid all day hearing like, you're so stupid, you can't do this right, you can never do anything right, this is not good enough, this is not. So obviously they're going to grow up thinking that something is wrong with them, or that that something is off. But is that actually true? I don't think so.
When I just curious your thoughts on the best way to deal with that, because I think we've all been in situations where you're either in a supermarket and you see somebody doing that to the child, or in the school or something like that, and most people tend to, it's not my problem, and just turn away. But are we guilty of allowing it to spiral by just kind of intervening? It's a hard one, and I'm just curious your thoughts on that one.
Well, I mean, every person needs to decide for themselves, what they feel they should do in their life. So I can't really say what anybody else should do, but it's, in my experience, sometimes I have intervened, sometimes I haven't. I've done things in different ways, depending what I witnessed. But yeah, there was actually the true story. Just last week, there was when we speak about feeling your anger, actually, maybe this is a good story, because last week I was sitting in a coffee shop and there was a guy who was really, I mean, whatever, a man in his 30s or 40s, and he was really like nasty with the other guy he was sitting with. Like, it was bad. I guess he was his employee, and I'm not sure, but the tone of voice and the constants, I was just sitting there, and eventually I started getting really angry inside, right? Because I'm listening to this and it was so frustrating. And then I had to, realize, first of all, oh my God, I'm really getting angry here. What do I want to do? And realizing that I cannot, control other people or tell them what to do or, necessarily preach or anything else. I just, looked at him and he looked at me and I thought, do I actually want to say something or not? And he didn't look like he's going to attack me or anything, because maybe I would have made a different choice with that, the level of anger he had. I might have chosen differently. But in that moment, I just decided to say, he's like, what? And I was like, well, I said, do you want to know what I think? And he said, yeah, okay, go ahead. I go, are you sure you really want to know what I'm feeling? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I just want you to know. And I said it in this tone. I'm feeling a little bit angry inside because of the way that I'm hearing you speak to this person. Just like that. Goes, oh, really sorry, I've had bad sleep and this and that, and I don't know what, and made all kind, but it's not an excuse, and da, 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 da. And I'm like, well, I'm just telling you how I feel. That's all. And so where that goes and what happens there, who knows? That's not in my control. I just kind of expressed what I felt without lashing out, but I felt in that moment to do it, so I did it. It's not something I do every day or all the time, but in that moment, I felt to do it. So yes, I did.
But I
And
think
nothing
that's the
happened.
best
Yeah.
way to do it as well, is because sometimes people, when they intervene, they do it in an aggressive mode, and there's no way that's going to lead. Like, staying calm and just going up to someone and say, look, I just like to, because you have to try to come from their side, because, whether it's the child that's annoying them, or because sometimes it's something else. It could be a financial thing that they're just frustrated because of that and taking out on the child. But if you can remain calm as you're having the conversation, then it doesn't affect, it doesn't spiral into an argument. The kind of person can sometimes take a step back, acknowledge it, and actually make a shift.
It can happen, yeah. But, it's really, really important also to separate the person from the behavior. I mean, for me, that's absolutely critical. Like, not to be, even if someone's doing a behavior that's not okay, or you think it's not okay, at least, it doesn't mean their person is evil or bad or anything else, right? Because we don't know their whole life and everything that they went through. But we can absolutely say that we might have the opinion that this behavior is not okay. So it's possible to be very, clear about the behavior not being okay, but the person, yes, being okay at the same time, right? You can do that. And so that doesn't mean we don't set boundaries, right? So I think a lot of us are raised, well, some of us are raised learning empathy and then using that as an excuse for behavior, right? So if you just understand, oh, they've had a bad day, that's why they're yelling their heads off. Oh, okay, I understand. So then we excuse the behavior. But it's possible to separate that and say, I understand, and this behavior is not okay. Like both. I'm not going to tolerate the behavior, but I'm not going to be deeply hating you or anything, but I'm not going to tolerate that behavior, and I might put boundaries about it. And maybe I'll never even talk to you again because you're, who knows what, but I'm still not against you. It is possible not to be against or hateful to the other person and not even talk to them ever again. That's possible. It's because of the current behavior that they did, or maybe you need to process pain or whatever else it is. So I wouldn't use it like as an excuse, but like this separation anyways, it helps me realize and to, not be against or hateful to any human being, because we don't know their whole story and we don't know everything they went through. So what's there to hate, right? They're like you went through all kinds of things. I went through all kinds of things, and I've done a million behaviors of all kinds, right? And I'm not going to hate myself. I'm going to understand myself. I'm going to understand myself for what, anything I've done and said. I'm going to just look and understand why and how, and, be kind to myself about it with understanding. And then if somebody does that, right, if they've gone through themselves and understand themselves so fully, you kind of understand everybody else, because you realize, oh, okay, they have their whole thing, whatever it was that they must, I don't need to figure it all out, Roy. Wait, your whole life has been, but I'm sure it's, whatever, it's been tough. Everyone has all kinds of things. So I'm not going to be hard on you, but I will be very strict with my boundaries, but I won't be hard on you, right? There's a big difference. Yeah.
It's kind of leading on to that then is kind of forgiveness, the act of forgiveness. Because like I personally, because I went through losing a lot of businesses, losing everything, basically my own houses and the whole lot. And then there was kind of anger based on different people that had caused this. And it was through meditation, guided meditation, that I went through a process. And I believe one, it was like gratitude, but the other one, which I think is the most, was the act of forgiveness. So I kept saying, okay, like I forgive you. The easy ones, some are simple, you can do it, anything. Other ones that cost, they take a bit of time. But what I did actually was bringing it back to that you have unconditional love for a child. You look at any baby, and then you realize it's external forces that are actually, changing that. And that's the way I looked at it. I was like, did that person come into this world wanting to be like this? They're acting on something that happened to them. And just through that whole process, I was able to give forgiveness, because I believe like it's in your own cells, because they're not feeling your annoyance and just anger towards them. It's when you have anger, you have anger within. And I think the forgiveness is actually the most important thing anyone could start practicing.
Oh, wonderful. Nice to hear that you're able to do that really for yourself, right? It's for yourself. That
exactly. It's for
you.
You don't realize it at the time.
Yeah. I had a similar experiences for sure, but it's normal to have phases of anger and hurt and whatever, and that can't be rushed. It takes the time that it takes, but eventually, again, like if you're trying to be responsible for yourself and feel well yourself, you eventually realize that this anger and hurt that you might be holding on to for too long is hurting you, right? And because you want to be well. So I went through that kind of same thing. At some point I decided, like, okay, I'm ready to heal, or I'm ready to feel okay, and therefore I'm ready, to forgive this person so that I can feel okay. And again, part of what you're saying, realizing, okay, maybe they didn't intend everything or know everything, or they had their own things, so they weren't necessarily just evil inside or something like that. They just had their own whatever was going on, and that led to those behaviors. And that helps for sure to be able to forgive again, and separating the behavior from the person helps. So I'm glad you got to that. That was very big for me as well, when we're able to walk around actually forgiving all the time, right? Then you become just a person that's just always forgiving, like no matter what you do, okay, maybe I'll set a boundary, I don't like it, but you're forgiven right away, kind of, right? You can almost do that at some point.
You touched as well on wanting justice. So you might just kind of touch on that a little bit, because I thought that was good as well.
Yeah, that one I wrote just because, if you've tried, compassion and forgiveness and healing, and you felt our emotion and whatever, and you're just still holding on to this idea of revenge, or things have to come around and go around, or be equal, or they deserve, I don't know what. So I just suggested, as an idea that came to my mind, is, okay, fine. So if you actually want justice, so make the whole thing just. Like, why only pick your event that you had with this person to make some kind of justice there? Why not make the whole thing just? So maybe make their whole life just. Did they have a whole just life, this other person? How they were raised or treated or everything? Like, just make the whole picture just, fine. Like, go ahead and do that. But necessarily just trying to fix this one line, this one event that happened with you, that's not really justice anyways. I mean, that's just one little event of the whole picture. So it was just a thought to try to help people to let go of this idea of justice and revenge or something like that, and look a little bit more towards just healing yourself, and the rest will take care of itself.
Excellent. And just finally, because I mean, there's a lot of things I could touch on, but I don't want to be,
We
I
can
want
talk
people
later
to actually,
if you like.
I want people to actually go and get the book and just look, because it's a really enjoyable read. But the
Oh,
butterfly
thank you.
effect, you actually touch on that as well. So you might just kind of mention the butterfly effect.
Yeah, so the butterfly effect is it's a mathematical concept where the example that was given is that, the wings of a butterfly flapping, so something very, very minute, can actually have big impact at a later time. For example, changing the direction of a tornado or a hurricane or something like that. So, and mathematically, it's actually true, right? So a small something can actually create, huge things in the future, huge change and whatever. So when you walk around knowing that, for me anyways, I don't try to think like, okay, I have to do some big thing or who knows what, sometimes just smiling at someone really changes the whole direction of their day and then life, right? Like every little thing actually changes everything, right? If you think about it, every sentence we're saying today changes everything in the whole world, right? Because your direction now changed mine, and whoever listened, everything just moved slightly differently, and then it's some other new direction. So this, I find, is a very fascinating idea to just be aware of all the time, and also take you away from feeling you need to like change the whole world or save the whole world or doing things like that. So just doing small things and letting it go, I think, can have who knows what impact and how, and I'm sure it does. So you can think about that and just smile at someone, and I'm sure that has huge impact.
I think even if you kind of look at driving, because you've two choices, if somebody, I mean, obviously there's reckless driving, but so if somebody does something, you can be aggressive, beat the horn, and then they can be thinking about it, or maybe perhaps they're new at driving or just having a bad day. You don't know what's going on. There could be a baby screaming in the back and everything, which in turn could have a knock-on effect later on because they're thinking of that. Or on the opposite side of the fence, you see somebody, you just slow down, let somebody out, you open the door, you hold the door open. For what I have actually found is I just have a habit. I've always do that. I'll always hold the door. If I see somebody coming in, I will never close the door on somebody's face. And I'm seeing that it's happening a lot with a lot of people, the younger generation. They don't do that. It's just kind of, but it's something I've always done. And the amount of times that, even if it's a guy that's tattooed on the face and everything, I've noticed they're the ones that say thank you. So not to be judging anybody or looking, just do what's right.
So you have a habit of kindness. That's a wonderful habit.
Yeah. And by doing that, then my son, my youngest child, he sees that, so he does that as well. I mean, I even see him when I'm shopping. If he's going along and I'm looking and he stops, he's stopping because there's somebody else going across like that, and it's just
a little respect.
It's little, and so these little things, people see it, and then they actually replicate it because they actually appreciate it by seeing it, and then they're conscious of it and they can do it. So that's how we make change in the world. Just the little things.
I agree. Yeah, very nice.
Listen, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, Sandy. So you might let people know how can they get in contact with you.
Well, I just have a website, so it's called thecouragecircle.com. So that's where, if somebody comes to Montreal and wants to come to the Courage Circle, you're welcome to come, or if you want information or to contact me, so just on the website.
Brilliant. And what I would actually say is, personally, I think if you can start doing this online to get more people involved, and because it's brilliant for people in Montreal to be able to do it, but I think just by having gone through the whole lot and just having the conversation with yourself, I think that in itself will have a massive impact in the world as well. Because if you've got all these different groups of people of different religions, ethnicity, everything, and just having full respect and just removing the titles, that's how we'll make change in the world. So I encourage you to start doing that, because you definitely have a gift. You have a gift with words, and you can feel your compassion as you do, which others will as well. And I think by perhaps making them the world your circle instead of just Montreal.
I'll try. I'll do what I can.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll make sure I put the website both on the audio and the video.
Thanks, Ray. It was a pleasure to meet you.
No problem. Pleasure meeting you too. So that's all for the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. As mentioned, we're on BitChute and YouTube. And you'll find my podcast coaching along with my 4 other podcasts, including the meditation podcast. If you want to actually get grounded and have some nice meditation, bio.link/podcaster. Until next week, take care.
So I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. You'll find everything about me on bio.link/podcaster with all my podcasts, and you'll find it, you see in the QR code in the graphic that's shown. I'd like again to thank my sponsors. So if you or someone you know struggling with anxiety and want to know how to be 100% anxiety free in 6 weeks without therapy or drugs, Daniel Packard's Anxiety Solution Program company offers a 6-week system that permanently solves anxiety at an astounding 90% success rate. People who join the program only pay at the end once they have clear, measurable results. If you're interested in learning more, go to permanentanxietysolutions.com where you can book a free consultation with Daniel. Do you fight blood pressure and or want to get off the meds? Doctors are amazed at what Zona Plus can do. You can get a $50 discount with my code ROY, zona.com/discount/ROY. And you'll see it in the QR code as well as Daniel's QR code. Quality manufacturer of metal products for telecommunication and workshop equipment and other metal materials. You see the brochure there in the QR code, and let me know if you would like a quotation, shipped internationally at very competitive price. I'd like to thank all my sponsors and also all my listeners. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, really helps. And I also have a video on how to give a 5-star rating because a lot of people have wrote to me asking me that they don't know how to do that. Until next week, take care.